In Australia, it's common to find canned beetroot in most pantries. It turns up at barbecues, just in a bowl by itself or mixed with other ingredients, and it's always in a burger with the lot. Where I live, beetroot grows throughout the winter, and you're harvesting throughout the winter and the spring. And you can turn beetroot like this into jars like that. The leaves are also delicious to eat too, and the chickens don't mind them either. So today I'm showing you how I pressure can a few jars of beetroot. I've prepared a container of clean water outside so that when I harvest my beetroots from the garden, I can easily wash all of that soil off, leaving it outside in the garden and not bringing it into the kitchen and getting it down the sink. Trim off the stems and taproot, placing them in a saucepan. Then add in some boiling water and bring the beetroots up to a boil and boil them until the skins slip right off. The smaller ones will be quicker, so I pull them out sooner, leaving the big ones in just a little bit longer. Once they're done, the skins slip right off. You can either use a knife to remove the skins, or you can use your fingers. And if you don't want to get purple hands, you might prefer to wear gloves as well. If your beets are small, you can can them whole. You can also slice them up, and today I'm just dicing mine up into 1/2-inch square pieces. The main thing is that they're fairly uniform within your jars. I've got my sterilised jars here, and I'm checking for cracks and any nicks off the rims of the jars because I want them to seal properly and I don't want them to crack in the canner when they're pressure canning. Fill the jars with the beet cubes, or whichever shape you've chosen to can your beets. Adding salt is optional. I'm using Himalayan sea salt and I'm adding in 1/2 teaspoon to each pint jar. I don't usually can with salt, but with beetroots I do like to add some in. Fill up the jars with boiling water. I'm wanting 1 inch of headspace. Remove the air bubbles by moving the debubbling tool or a flat knife around the outside of the jar and squeezing in. This way we'll get an accurate reading when we measure the headspace. Push the beets down so that they're under the water as much as possible so we can get a flat reading. I have an empty bowl with a spoon so that I can take some water out if I need to. The headspace needs to be exactly 1 inch. Perfect. Dip a clean tea towel into the white vinegar or hot water if you'd prefer just to use water. It's up to you. I use vinegar, and I know it's corrosive to metal because I've cleaned casters filthy rusty casters, I just dunk them in the vinegar and leave them there for weeks and then scrub them with a wire brush and all that rust comes off. It's incredible. So it corrodes metal. However, I will be wiping it off the rim before I put the lid on anyway. So I'm wiping it off. It's basically to get all the grease off, especially if you're canning chicken or something like meat. It's really good to be able to get all that oily residue off the rims of the jars. Beetroot's probably not as important, but for me, it's just what I do. It's part of my routine, so I just continue to do it. Place the lid on, center it, put the ring on, and screw it up finger tight, not too tight. One done. Lid on, center it, lid on, center it, ring on, finger tight. Ring on, finger tight. There's 4 jars done. Now that's all I'm doing today. That's all the beetroot I have that I want to can. I have my canner set up on the stove top. It's got the right amount of water in it, a dash of vinegar, and I've also got the tray in the bottom, and I'm placing my jars on the canning tray. I've got some empty jars in there to keep all the jars standing up because I'm only canning 4 jars. And I don't want them to fall over in the pressure canning process. Place the lid on the canner and lock it into position. Adjust the heat to medium-high and vent steam for 10 minutes. See the steam coming out of the vent pipe? We do that for 10 minutes. Then we place the weighted gauge on. My canning altitude is below 1,000 feet, so I've got 10 pounds of weight on my weighted gauge, and I bring my dial gauge up to 11. Once the can is jiggling, I know it's at 10 pounds of pressure, and I start my timer. Process pint jars for 30 minutes or quart jars for 35 minutes. When the processing time is up, turn off the heat and reduce the pressure of the canner to 0. Be patient and don't help the canner to lose pressure quicker by jiggling around the jiggler, because then the pressure canner will reduce pressure too quickly and you may crack the jars or not get a good seal. After 5 minutes at 0 pressure, you can remove the lid safely so that the steam doesn't burn your hands or drip on your toes. And place the lid on a hard surface that won't get melted or damaged by the hot lid. If you're above 1,000 feet, you'll want your weighted gauge to be at 15 pounds. And if you're using your dial gauge, I'll leave the information in the description below for your altitude. Leave the jars a further 10 minutes to cool in the canner before removing them. I put them on a chopping board that's got a tea towel on top so they don't get a shock by going onto a cold surface, as they're still very hot, and they're also out of reach of small fingers and pets, so nobody gets burnt by the hot jars. I love watching bubbling jars straight from the canner, and they smell good too. Leave them for 12 hours. After the 12 hours, remove the rings. They've all sealed perfectly. Now they just need to be washed and labelled and dated so I know exactly what they are and the date that I made them. Let me know what you're canning at the moment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.